Good morning and welcome to Teach Me Bees. I'm your host, Dave Wescott, and this morning I have with me co-host Scott the beekeeper and Amanda Joyce with HoneyLux. HoneyLux is located in Elma, Washington. They provide honey sales. They keep and maintain up to about 20 beehives. The website is HoneyLuxHoney.com. Feel free to buy
Go check it
all
out.
of your high quality honey there, and they have been keeping bees since 2018. Good morning, Amanda.
Hello. Good morning to you. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
We're glad to have you here. So, can you help our audience get to know you a little bit and tell us a little bit about your business and how you got into beekeeping?
I would love to. Well, my name's Amanda. I live in Elma, Washington, as you already said. I started keeping bees in 2018, but I kind of always thought that I was going to. I sort of always had this idea that I was going to get into that at some point because I always loved gardening with my mom. Some of my fondest memories are doing that. And then I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I saw an episode of Reading Rainbow about beekeeping.
Okay.
I don't know if either of you ever watched Reading Rainbow, but I was a huge fan as a kid, PBS all the way.
Ralph just
And
raised his hand. You can't see it, but Ralph, our producer, was doing somersaults.
Yes.
Love LeVar Burton. Love Reading Rainbow.
Yes. He influenced me big time. And that is when I truly became fascinated with beekeeping specifically. And in 2018, my husband and I moved into a place in Shelton, Washington. And I noticed that my neighbor had what looked like beehives. And I figured one day I was going to eventually work up the courage to ask him about it. And I did. And he asked me if I wanted to look right then. And I did. And he became my mentor. And he also gifted me my first hive. And here we are now. So it's been a crazy ride, but I love it.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's amazing. So what was 2018 when you got your first hive?
Yes.
Okay. And is that hive still alive today?
No, unfortunately. It was a late in the season, situation. They were too small. I didn't know anything about treating for mites yet. I didn't know anything about anything. And boy, do I still feel that way a lot of the time, if I'm honest. But no, that one did not make it. But there were a lot of lessons there. And that's something I'm really grateful for.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
So
Thank you.
You're a beekeeper. You've been a beekeeper for, I don't know, 5-6 years, my math here.
Something like that.
When did it become a formal business and you named it HoneyLux? Why did you name it HoneyLux? What does that mean? And since when have you kind of made that shift into selling honey and, a business aspect?
That's such a good question. In 2020 was when I made that shift.
Oh, okay.
I am a hairdresser by trade. That's what I've been doing for the better part of 20 years now, in addition to gardening and beekeeping and all of those things when I started that. But what that meant in 2020 is that I was out of work for a few months. And as somebody who values productivity, albeit a bit too highly, sometimes I really struggled with not working. That was really, really hard for me. And about that time, that first hive got me hooked, right? But then the next season, I got a couple more. And that was right around the time that we had just moved into this place. And the 2 or 3 hives that I had started with really took off. And I had about 5 that year, I think. And I kind of just didn't have anything better to do. To be honest with you, I thought, how hard can it be? Which are some famous last words now at this point.
We've all said them at one time or another.
I tend to think I have that gene, the how hard can it be gene. Like with most things, I'll just see what happens,
Yeah.
But in 2020 was when it became official. And I thought, maybe this thing that I really find that I enjoy and that feels somewhat like a meditation, maybe this thing can pay for itself. And then it did, and then some. And that's where I am now. And simultaneously, during that time, I realized that even though I'd been doing hair for 20 years nearly, and that I loved it, that I realized I really wanted to go back to school. And so I'm now also doing that.
Wow. Are you going back to school for beekeeping, for bees and so forth?
I would love to do that, but there's not enough hours in the day. I'm actually going back to school to become a therapist,
Oh,
which is something that I would love to integrate with beekeeping at some
Mm,
point in time.
that's cool.
that's awesome. Bees are very therapeutic. What was it
Yes.
that got you hooked? You said when you got your first hive, you got hooked. What was it that hooked you?
I think there were so many things. It was the excitement.
Okay.
It was, there's just a little bit of danger. You might get stung,
Yeah.
um, or you might, I mean, I sure do. Um, there's the smell. It smells so incredible, like honey and beeswax a little bit. And what I think might have hooked me, might have been the strongest hook, was the sound, the vibration. It's
Mm,
wildly soothing, I think. And when I mentioned it becoming a bit of a meditation, I think that's kind of what I'm referring to. My brain goes fast, and beekeeping makes me slow down, weirdly.
Huh.
So you have to pay attention.
interesting.
You have to be purposeful with your movements.
That's true.
You have to be mindful. And so to me, I think that that's probably what really got me.
That's awesome. I love that. Excitement, danger, smell, and vibration. Those are my takeaways. But that's really kind of cool. Like you thought about it,
Thank
and
you.
you've got some things that were the big hook, and I like that. The thing about the danger is this is a true story. Whenever I go anywhere, it does not matter who I talk to, and I keeping business, I immediately get flooded with, it doesn't matter, like 3 stories from every person about how they killed a beehive that was attacking them, about how they got stung by bees randomly, or what their horror story of bees are. And normally it's not bees, it's wasps, but they're calling them
Right.
bees. But
Yeah.
I cannot tell somebody that I own a beekeeping business and not have the danger element to it. You know what I mean? And so when you
Mm,
tell
I
them,
do.
yo, you can let them crawl on your hands and you can let them, get on you and that sort of thing. And then I tell them, the first time you ever put that beekeeping suit on and you hear the buzzing around your ears and you feel them flying around you, like it's very eerie. It's still
Yeah.
eerie. It's still eerie no matter what. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
bzzz, so
Hmm.
it's serious stuff. So I
yeah.
love I love your why. I love that. That's very cool.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah.
So,
I don't think a lot of people would expect to hear that it's relaxing or soothing or a
mm,
meditation, but when you think about it, it really can be, right?
yeah.
It can be. I love watching the bees fly in and out of the hive, right? I like just sitting
Yeah.
there and watching zoop, 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 and then every so often they'll bring a dead guy out or an ant or something and they'll
Yep.
carry him to the edge and throw him off the cliff, and like it's a bees are a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And now Scott's
Yes.
more hands-on than I am, but I do love bees.
I'm right there with you, my friend.
What would be your favorite part of beekeeping, or the best part for you since, maybe since 2020, since you've really amped it up, I'd say. What's been your favorite part? And then following it up, what's kind of been maybe something hard or challenging about beekeeping or beekeeping business?
Um, I think my favorite part, we've touched on it a little bit, but it's the ability to actually slow down when I'm doing that. And I can sometimes spend hours there down in the hives, going through each one, doing inspections. And I just feel so fulfilled and calm afterwards. Also, if I'm honest, the confidence that I've built, because running a business is no small feat. I'm sure I don't have to tell either of you that. I'm self-employed otherwise. So the confidence that I think I've built running not just one but now 2 small businesses, that's pretty big. That's pretty big, I think. And to answer the question about the hard part, is that what you were asking, Scott?
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, honestly, that's time. I just feel like that's probably, I can tell by by both your faces, that's probably relatable, you know? There's so many things that I'm interested in and so many things that I want to do. And with the school and work, you know, there's only so many hours in the day. So I can only keep so many hives, even though I would love to maintain so many more. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, so if anybody's listening and anybody, wants to get into beekeeping or they want to have that backyard hive, and I love this question because everybody answers it a little bit different. Um, what's one lesson or what's one thing that backyard beekeeper should do? What's that? Hey, before you do it or as you're doing it, what's the number one thing you got to do this?
I would recommend, you know, having a mentor, or at the very least, having a mentor or taking a class or both if possible. Because there's just only so much that you can learn on your own and learn the hard way. Pardon me for saying so, but it sucks sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
And to have somebody, and to have somebody that can direct you and say, hey, actually, in this situation, perhaps you can go about, making a split this way, or perhaps if you would like to avoid, situation X from happening, you can do Y and Z. And there's a lot of things that I didn't have to learn the hard way, and I'm really thankful to my mentor for that.
What would be
And
an
then there's only
example
so
of one
much
of
you
those?
can. Exactly that, how to make a split, and that there are different ways to do it necessarily. If you find a queen cell, then you can make a split one way. You could make multiple sometimes. I had no clue how to do that when I started. I had to call my mentor and have him on the phone with me while I did it because I didn't know what I was doing. And I just thought that would be some kind of easy thing, or I didn't even know that that was an issue that a person as a beekeeper could face at all. And so I guess in my situation, it was just, you don't know what you don't know. And that's why taking a class or having a mentor can be so helpful. Somebody you can have reflect things back on you in real time,
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
good.
You know what? I saw somebody that has a couple little businesses and they do their little thing, and I saw him put a post on social media the other day, and I read it, and they said something to the effect of, in going through my entrepreneurial journey, in building businesses and then starting businesses, people always want to share their advice, and they want to share their advice. And this person believes that people want to share their advice when they get successful. And so she says, hey, you get successful and then you share your advice, and then you do that because you think you're giving back, and then you want people to listen to that advice, and then what are they supposed to do with it? Like, apply that to their business and learn something? And this person says, hey, I'm a believer in fall fast, figure out your own problems. You're going to have your own misses. They may be similar, they may be not, but you'll learn on your way. And that's the way you should run business. And I've been thinking about that ever since I saw that, because it's kind of, you don't see that kind of a post every day.
Right.
But I love what you shared, because having a mentor who helped you walk through some things prevented you from maybe killing the hive, maybe having it go sideways. Like, you took that in a different way, and I even posed that to Scott too. Like, having that person to help you, and if you really listen to the challenges and the mistakes and the missteps and also the how-tos, I think it can really propel your success. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean,
Well,
yeah, go for it.
do you want to?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that, my perspective on that is very similar to yours, that a mentor's job is not to do everything for you, not if they're doing it the way, I mean, right and wrong is tricky to break it down like that, right? But the way I prefer to be mentored is to have somebody help me think critically about why I'm doing a thing, not just that I'm doing this thing because I'm supposed to, but why. I want to know the why behind it. And so maybe that's more my unique approach. I'm not sure. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful thing to ask. Why am I doing this? Whether that's beekeeping or something else entirely unrelated.
Right. Agreed.
It's why do I do this thing, or why do I attend such thing, or why do I like take it to school? Why do I go to school? Well, okay, it's not always because you need to learn y=mx plus b or whatever the heck. I don't even remember what the formula is. But there are helpful things about it, socialization or learning other skills. Maybe it's a woodshop class or other things. Why you don't go just because society tells you, although they do, but you go for a lot of other external reasons. And so I think when you apply that to a mentor, when you say, hey, why am I doing this? And they can answer that why, or they can maybe, and I think sometimes some of the better teachers in my life have maybe given me like a partial answer, but then
Yeah.
I've had to self-discover some of the
Yeah.
answer. That's always really valuable. And at the end of the day, like I consider myself a learner, a student. Now I've been a student quite literally in school, but I'm also a learner in just life. Like I want to learn life skills and be a better person, be a better better husband, better whatever,
I feel the same.
better beekeeper, etc. Because I'm a
Agreed.
learner, So that's what I'd say about mentors, and I think they're great. I think they're super helpful. I would get one in whatever area of life that you need one. That's a recommendation. But I'm curious if we can go back to your business a little bit. It's called HoneyLux. Can you tell our audience a little bit about it? Do you sell honey? Do you sell bees? Do you sell beeswax, candles? Tell us a little bit about your business and just like what you do currently. And maybe
I'd be happy
to. Forward. What do you maybe planning upcoming?
Right. It is called HoneyLux Honey, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but my favorite word is deluxe. And that is where that name came from. I was running some name ideas by my husband, and he said, well, why not HoneyLux? And I was, oh, it's perfect and that is quite literally the reasoning. Deluxe is my favorite word, and it's, honey. So it's kind of silly and simple.
That's cool though. That's cool. It's a cool name. It's catchy. You won't forget it.
Yeah. No, and that's what I like, and it's real because and if you know me, you'll know that's my favorite. And then as far as what do we do for business? It just selling raw unpasteurized honey and beeswax. And I have a little bit of merch too. But mostly I just kind of want to keep it simple for right now. There are things that I wouldn't mind trying in the future. I would love to try comb honey, for example. But again, that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. There are not enough hours in the day. So for now, I have a summer harvest that is usually ready around July, early to mid-July. And that's generally blackberry wildflower blend, but mostly blackberry. That's what we have a lot of around here. I think a lot of us do in Washington. And then in, like early to mid fall, like usually it varies, but usually around September, October, I'll have the fall harvest ready, which is mostly Japanese knotweed around here. And I don't know how many people have tried it, but it's a really dark honey. It's different. It's really cool. It varies in color, but this year was some of the darkest I've harvested, and it's really delightful, I think, personally. And usually, because I have such a small number of hives, well, I guess depending on who you ask, usually both harvests sell out really, really fast. Like usually they're gone in just a couple of days or a week or two, depending. This last year, both harvests were the biggest we've ever had before. And so I actually have just a couple of jars left, which has never happened before. I'm not mad about it. And then as for the future, that's a really good question. I think I kind of touched on it a bit earlier. I would not mind figuring out a way to integrate, because I plan to be a counseling therapist. I would not mind figuring out how I can offer, group therapy sessions. The people that, beekeeping therapy has proven to be the most beneficial to and for, according to a lot of the studies I've read recently, are those with PTSD. That could be like, veterans who are recently home and struggling with that. That could be first responders. I'm aware of some organizations that are already doing things like this that I would love to work with when I start my graduate degree. If I could integrate beekeeping and a therapy practice, I think that would make me really happy. So maybe that's what the future looks like, but I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get there. I'm just pretty confident I will.
That's cool.
That's really cool. I like that.
How
Thanks,
do you
guys.
how do you maintain your hives in the winter? What are you doing there?
I have, thanks to my husband, I have two really cool sort of structures that all my hives go underneath. I'm never really sure what to call them because they're not really a shed and they're not really a lean-to, but they're just sort of freestanding structures with a roof, so that I don't actually have to do like the pillowcase with the shavings in it or anything like that. I just switch from a regular inner cover to a winter cover, and kind of do the mountain camp method on top of that, depending on if the hive needs it or not. Usually just kind of give them a feel and see where they're at about this time of year. And if they feel light, then I give them a little until I have my first day that's warm and dry enough to beekeep, because around here, the dry is harder than the warm usually to come by.
Really
Interesting.
It's pretty wet around here. Yeah.
Hey, you're not too far from the coast, so that makes a little bit of sense.
No.
Do you like move those structures on to where your beehives are currently at? Are they mobile, or do you move the beehives like into the structures? How does that
The
work?
beehives are always there.
Oh,
They're
always
always
there.
on the structures. Yeah, the roofs are high enough that a lot of sun comes in and I'm able to face them southeast. But they're low enough that they get very little weather, except for a little bit of wind.
That's awesome.
I've got a little
That's cool.
silly
Thanks.
question for you. Do you name the hives?
I have not, but I do. My husband does like to call all the bees by one name. He calls them all Esmeralda, which I think is lovely and adorable.
That's awesome. When we got our first 3 hives, my kids named them Earl, Pearl, and Swirl.
I love it. I love it. I'm not opposed to naming them. I do love naming things.
That's funny.
Right? It's kind of cool. You know what? Because I have kids.
Yeah.
I like my kids to be involved. So we called hive 1
Absolutely.
Earl, 2 Pearl, and number 3 Swirl. And
That's
they
funny.
all.
I
I
didn't
love
know
it.
that. That's cool.
You didn't know that, did you?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Learned a lot.
Indeed. Hopefully, anyway, right?
Yes.
That's the
Man.
mission.
This has been
Yeah.
an awesome call. I've had a great time learning about
Me
you and your
too. Thanks,
business.
guys.
Just for anyone maybe who's listening, and the concept of bee therapy, could you maybe go into that a little bit? Maybe just give an overview. Where do you get a degree that allows you to do bee therapy, or are you kind of just tying that in with your current practices?
No, that's a good question.
And you mentioned a couple organizations. Can you, if you know them off the top of your head, can you shout them out?
I don't remember the names, but
Okay.
off the top of my head, but I can give them to you.
Okay.
There's one that
That's
I would
awesome.
love to work with as part of my practicum, even if I can, but that's a fair question. I know some of the answer to that and not all. I don't know exactly how I'll be integrating the two. I know of somebody in another state who is already doing it that I've spoken with, and they've agreed to share some information with me. That's something I've decided to mark as a bridge to cross later when I get
Cool.
to it, because right now there's a lot that I'm trying to manage. But essentially, I'll finish my undergrad degree, which I'm currently getting from WSU, and then I'll pursue a master's degree in counseling. And then it'll be up to me to integrate those two things. I would imagine there are probably not a lot of resources on how to do something like that. So I may have to do a bit of trailblazing, and that's something I'm perfectly okay with.
That's cool.
That's very cool. We're big on philanthropy and giving back, and we work with this place
I
called
love
Dawson
that.
Place that helps kids who have been abused physically, sexually, so on and so forth. But I'll tell you, like, kids love bees, and they
Yeah.
love putting the little bee suits on, and they love being active. And I just think, like, I wonder, veterans. Yes, I know of veteran beekeeping, business. That's an awesome thing. But I also wonder if the kids, who have had these really traumatic experiences, could also benefit, just because of the fact that just in Snohomish County alone, Dawson Place sees about 1,100 children a year. And they say that's about 25% of the abused children in that county. So there is so much trauma that
There's a
comes with
huge
that.
need.
But the bees are so relaxing, and it is so fun. And
Yeah.
what I love is that when you're young and you're little and you're out there, like you're so inquisitive and it's so interesting, and it can kind of change your life being, involved in that. So I don't know, but it just seems like those two things in my mind kind of play really nice together: therapy and support and bees and hobby and something that you can kind of pour your life into. Cause a lot of people pour their lives into their hives, into beehives and keeping. And it's kind of I'm just spitballing there, but it's just kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
No, I think you make some great points, and I think that that's something that's absolutely worth exploring. Admittedly, kids aren't necessarily my strong suit, but I think that that's something that could absolutely be explored. And occasionally I think about what it might have been like had I found beekeeping when I was little, and I can only imagine the possibilities. Better late than never. But yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Anytime I've exposed kids to it, they always seem to really enjoy it. You hand them a drone or something, let it know it can't hurt them. Like, it's really cool to watch kids' faces as they discover, pollinators and things like that. That's something that I'd be interested in looking at more for sure.
That's awesome.
It's
Well,
very
you'll
cool.
have to loop us back in on how this progresses here, and maybe we'll get you back on when you're a full bee therapist or
there you go.
Whatever
would
that
be
looks
rad.
like. Do you have any parting words for our audience, whether it's around your business and like running a business or something, or if it's beekeeping specific, or something else? Any parting words that you would like to give our audience?
I think if a couple of things, if beekeeping is something that you think you're interested in, give it a try, see if you can't do a beekeeper for a day experience. I've done that for people, and I think it's really fun. I know a lot of beekeepers who wouldn't mind, check it out for a day or two, shadow somebody, see what you think. It might be harder than you think, but it's also really cool, and you never know what kind of benefits you might receive from it. I'm here talking to you guys today because it's something I decided to get into. You just never know where things can take you. So I think if it's something that interests you, then go for it. How hard could it be?
Awesome. I love that. That's great advice. So we're bringing this in for a landing. Listen, if you're in the audience today, reach out to Amanda. The website is HoneyLuxHoney.com. Check it out for some of that wonderful blackberry blended honey, or some of that Japanese knotweed blended honey. Sounds very exciting. So check that out, purchase from her, and take care of yourself and enjoy that honey. Any final words, Scott, as we bring it in?
No, this has been great. Are there any other ways that people can connect with you or follow HoneyLux Honey or anything like that?
Yeah, I have Facebook and Instagram. Both are HoneyLux Honey. It's spelled HoneyLux Honey is my handle on both.
Awesome. Go follow Amanda. Follow HoneyLux Honey. Get some honey. This has been a great call. Thank you guys for joining us.
All right.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this show, give us a like, give us a share, leave some comments. We'd love to chat with you. We are live every Thursday, same time, same channel. Thank you so much. I'm Dave Wescott, your host. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere where it's social, we're hanging out. Thank you so much, and be happy.